Hello, hello, and welcome to our Tuesday night's rendition of Strictly Speaking. Tonight we have our guest, Miss Stephanie Trigg. Let's see here. Miss Stephanie, if you want to go ahead and unmute your video and say hello to everyone.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks for coming along. Tonight's going to be a very casual, laid-back experience. So just strictly speaking between the two of us, really. And we're going to start off our show tonight with the same question we always ask. Stephanie, what does it mean to be, in your own words, a company manager?
Sure. Well, as a company manager, you are tasked with the management and care of a whole company, a company of performers, designers, creatives. Depending on what you're working on, that's going to vary. But in the most traditional sense, it's a lot of work with performers in particular. So you handle a lot of logistics. You're doing contracting and payroll sometimes, lots of spreadsheets, scheduling, that type of thing. But then also sometimes I think even a more important side, you're responsible for the care and well-being and the happiness and comfort of a company when they're in their performance space. As we all know, sometimes a theater can be like another family. So that company management role is so important there as well.
Awesome. And how did you get started in this role?
So it was actually by accident. When I was going through school, I thought I was 100% dead set on doing public relations. And I wanted to do Broadway and live entertainment PR and all of that. And that is exactly what I did. That's what I majored in. And straight out of college, I went right into an office in Times Square, Broadway PR. I thought it was everything that I wanted to do. And I spent about 2 years doing that and felt very disconnected from the artistic side of things. I spent all day in the office, writing tons of press releases, and I felt that disconnect from the world that I loved, even though it was the world that I was working on. So friends of mine started a theater company of their own, and they said that they needed a publicist. Would I come help them out? But they also happened to need somebody to handle the company management duties. And before then, I wasn't actually even sure what a company manager did professionally. They were like, oh, you have the right temperament for it. Come on. And I spent a summer with them and realized that all of those duties were really what I was loving doing. And I was just pumping out the press releases because I had to. And that transitioned my whole career.
Oh, wow. And so, okay, so you speak about the right temperament. So for anyone that might be interested or wanting to know more about company management, what is that temperament that they may need?
Sure. You definitely have to be a people person at the core of everything, right? You are going to be dealing with personalities all across the board. And you have to love that, right? Not everybody does. I happen to love that. So it works very well. So at the core of everything, a people person. And then you definitely have to have a very practiced sense of patience. Did quite often.
We were just talking before the show about how the past 10 months has been an exercise in patience. So so I want to know what have you been up to over the last 10 months since we've all been in the midst of the pandemic?
Sure. So unfortunately, like the rest of New York and Broadway, Sleep No More, the production that I was working on, was forced to shut down due to the pandemic. And the whole city really has come to a screeching halt. And Broadway has yet to reopen. Everything else around has yet to reopen. We've been lucky enough that there have been some companies who have popped up here and there doing work safely, which is incredible. But the pandemic has totally shut down our production. So we have been making plans as much as we can to return, which we hopefully will very soon. But we've gotten to a point that we're kind of just waiting to hit go.
Okay, so you say production, Sleep No More, but that's not really a great definition or an adjective for that. So can you tell us a bit about the work that you do with Sleep No More? Sure. and what the project is?
Yeah. So Sleep No More is an immersive theater production. It is the creation of a British company called Punch Drunk. Punch Drunk was founded by Felix Barrett and Maxine Doyle, who are two wildly creative artistics. And the where it came from was, Felix's brainchild in the beginning, and they started to do smaller projects in London. And Sleep No More is the first project that has come to the US. It is an immersive theater production based in a 1939 hotel in Chelsea, New York. It's about 100,000 square foot facility. So it's a massive, massive space that we occupy that we're so lucky to have. And the show happens throughout this entire space. So unlike a traditional show, you're not sitting watching a proscenium stage. The show itself has a backbone of Macbeth. And then there's some other really interesting stuff throwing in there. It's got a heavy Hitchcock flair to it. There's some interesting Scottish lore in there as well around the Paisley witches. And it's primarily a dance piece, which is really incredible. Text is used very sparsely.
Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
As an audience member, you freely move around that space experiencing the show.
And so, okay, you cautioned me earlier on about using the word interactive and to use the word immersive. Can you speak to a bit about, what is the audience, as they walk through the space, and without giving out too much, I know that it's, Sleep No More is the experience of actually experiencing it, but what can you say about what an audience member should expect when they come into the production?
Sure. So one of my biggest pieces of advice is don't expect, actually. The best thing that you can do coming to see Sleep No More, or I think walking into any immersive production, is to just shed all of your expectations. Just let all of that go at the door and show up ready to experience what is presented to you and to engage in that. What is really exciting about Sleep No More is that you can do that in whichever way you want. So when I say I caution against using the word interactive, I think that implies that you are going to be forced to participate, or you have to engage. And sure, if that is something that you want to do, you're invited to do that. But by all means, if you're more of a person that wants to kind of disappear into the shadows and experience the world from the corners, then that's totally welcome as well.
Okay. And
yeah, I think individual experience for everybody.
And how long does this experience last?
Sure. So you can enter the hotel and check in for up to 3 hours at a time, and you're always going to experience different things. So that's the beauty of it, is you can come back over and over and over again and have a different experience with every visit.
Awesome. Okay. So this is something, simply, it was pretty new. I mean, this is now going on for a decade, yes?
Yeah, which is kind of wild to think about. Punch Drunk really pioneered this form of immersive theater, and Sleep No More has become the granddaddy of this new art form that has kind of trickled out. And I always kind of get a tickle at how immersive has become this magical new buzzword. And it's really exciting for us because no one ever dreamed it was going to become what it was. All of the runs everywhere were always set to be much shorter, and everything blossomed because it's just such a spectacular piece.
Well, and how, traditional theater or traditional entertainment for that matter, you watch the trailer, what you're coming into, what you're going to experience. How did y'all get people interested in this? How did people know about this?
Yeah, I think we use, to this day, we use the veil of mystery as, what does that for itself, right? In the beginning, no one had seen it. No one had seen it. No one knew what was going to happen. And as the years have gone, it's been lifted here and there. But driving that, you have to just come and experience it. You have to just see it for yourself. There is no way to describe it. There is no way to explain it. Was really, a positive for us. And we stuck with this mission of, we never formally advertised ever, nor will we ever. It really is a word of mouth production that, friends tell friends tell friends. And our audiences have changed a lot over the years, from being, local New Yorkers in the beginning to, tourists coming from all over the world just to see the show.
Well, Shane is on the program tonight, said that they've seen it 13 times. Always love discovering something
Super
new.
fan, I like it.
So, but as you've evolved over the last 10 years, has the show evolved at all, or is it really the same? Is it the same thing, and it's just everyone's able to experience it differently every time?
Sure. It's evolved in the sense that we have new cast members coming in throughout the years as we've gone, and every cast member brings something new to a role every time. But the structure of the show itself stays the same, and it just kind of blossoms with every new company that comes in. But it is still the same show that we opened.
That's awesome. Okay, so can you talk to us a bit about how the casting or the auditions, or hey, I'm an actor, I want to be part of a traditional show, I've trained for it, I've experienced it, but then here's this immersive thing. Is there a difference in how your company finds talent?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So when you think of the audition process, right, there is a certain level of it that you just have to see if a person has the chops to be able to execute choreography, right, to a certain level. Can you keep up? Can you handle this gravity of work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's it's a traditional process that I feel like we go through. But then there is this additional element to it that is us looking for performers who are special. Because when you're in a space as epic as the McKittrick Hotel, you have to have the power to be able to be seen in that space, right? You could be the most talented actor. You could be the most beautiful dancer. You could have that core level of talent, but you don't have that. We would call it like the light behind the eyes, right? Or like that extra spark that just tips you to that place that you go, oh, you're right for this world. You can be a storyteller in this space. You can handle, engaging with an audience. So we look for a certain level of talent, of course, but we specifically look for people who can tell a story and people who can engage with an audience.
And without giving up any trade secrets, but are you able to speak about what are those processes or tactics that you are able to employ to get that light behind the eye to shine?
Sure. A little bit, I think. It's often we will challenge performers through the audition process to do the opposite of whatever they're doing, right? Because they're gonna automatically show you what their instinct is, right? If they're a big performer, they're gonna come in and throw the walls off and do a booming Shakespearean monologue, right? Won't even let them finish that. I want to see super small, right? Like,
Yeah.
give me the opposite of what your instinct is. And it's kind of interesting to see how performers shift when you ask them to do something like that.
I see. Well, Shane, our 13-time experienced Sleep No More or guest of the hotel,
Yes.
they've got a couple of questions here. How do you tech something as massive as this over 5 floors? The scale is mind-boggling. Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, it is absolutely mind-boggling. That's a really accurate way of putting it. Um, I can't speak so much to the tech side of things just because it's not really my world, and I can't even begin to pretend like I understand how our master technicians do all of that. I'm just lucky that when I ask them to do something ridiculous, they manage to always figure out how to do it. So that's not really my forte, so I can't speak to that. But I will say that all of the teams that are behind the scenes for us, they are exactly that. They are epic teams.
Awesome. Okay. And Shane goes a little bit further, asking, are there multiple stage managers? What does the running crew look like?
Sure, there's multiple stage managers. Same thing with the technical side of things. There's these massive teams behind everything, and I think that's part of the magic of the show, and the mystery of it all is not having any idea of how we kind of make that happen.
Mhm.
You never see any of it.
Awesome. And so everyone, don't forget to throw those questions in the Q&A. And Stephanie is working on a show that mystery is the entire and selling point to it. So there will be questions we won't be able to answer tonight, but please throw them out there. We'll see what we can ask. So over 10 years of this production being running, do you see have you worked on other shows like it or immersive experiences like this prior to coming into Sleep No More?
No, this was actually my first immersive project I've ever worked on. Prior to being with the McKittrick, I was the company manager for the Shakespeare Theater of New Jersey, which is an incredible regional theater in our area. And I had been with them for quite a few years and was interested in moving on and had started to look around. And I replied to this ever so appropriate cloak and dagger ad that I saw, that was simply advertising for a company manager for a large scale off Broadway production. And that's all the ad was for. Because in the beginning, that's how they advertised for all the positions. They didn't want to put the name on anything, to keep that veil super heavy in the beginning. So when I applied for the job, I wasn't even sure what I was applying for at all. So when I got an invitation to an interview from an @Sleep No More NYC email address, I was shocked, because I couldn't. I was shocked that's what it was. I was so excited because it was just starting in New York. It was the hottest thing out there. Everybody was talking about it. You couldn't get a ticket to it, and here I was getting asked to come in and interview for it. So it was honestly just total accident and chance.
And before the shutdown, just to give our audience a sense of how exciting this project is or this production is, right now you are what, 18 months out in terms of wait list, is that correct? Or what's the how many people are waiting to get in to see Sleep No More? Or do you have an idea, a sense?
You know what? I actually don't know. I'm
Oh,
not
okay.
sure. I imagine a ticket's going to be pretty hard to get once we're back.
Yeah, but you've been sold out for quite a bit for a while prior to the shutdown.
Yeah. So we'll have quite a backlog to get through, of audiences, but I'm not sure what those numbers are. So
And on a given night in a 5-story building, how many people are invited in to the hotel on a per show basis?
sure, well, hundreds of residents will check in throughout the evening for any given performance. So it's
Awesome.
quite a busy night.
Okay. Well, I'm going to look at a couple more questions that I've got prepared for us, but also I want to remind everyone. Oh, here it comes. There we are. Shane. Not sure if you can answer this. I've never experienced it, but here there is a secret floor. Can you confirm that?
A secret floor. I don't know. Anything's possible at the McKittrick. So that's something you got to check in to come see for yourself.
All right, Shane, we'll make that number 14. We'll need to get you up there 14 times.
There you go.
So now that you've been, shut down for the last couple of months, we ask this question of everyone. Have you learned any lessons while dark that you'll bring forward once we reopen?
Yeah, so it's rare that we've been given this opportunity to have the show not running. Something that was interesting for us, is we never had a dark day. The McKittrick was open 7 days a week. So there has been this time for everybody to take a moment and step back. So I think one of the things that, we've been able to work on is, ideas of how we want to shift things and how we want to change things, and how we want to come back even better than before, that maybe we wouldn't have had a moment to, just because the train was chugging along. So there's been that bit of seizing the moment to be like, oh, you know what, we actually have this chance to redo this and bring it back even better than before. So that's been a nice silver lining of everything. So I'm excited to be able to put the pieces back together in a even stronger way.
Well, we all are, and I'm excited to get up there and see it at some point in the near future. So let's look at what is your favorite part of your job right now, or not right now, but like overall, what's your favorite part about working for the hotel?
Sure, that is an easy one because it has been my favorite part from day one. Our audition process is quite intense, as any audition process is for a performer. Ours, I think, is even more so. Um, and one of the best parts of my job, my absolute favorite, is I get to make the phone calls and offer tracks and offer roles and jobs to performers. And it is the most wonderful thing you could ever do because, through these rounds of auditions, you get to know these people and you're rooting for certain ones and you're so excited to work with certain ones. And you know that on the other side of it, they are just blanketed in stress and just staring at that phone every second. And I get to make that phone call and say, hey, would you like to join our company? And the reactions over the years have never ceased to amaze me, of squeals and tears and phones dropping and people thinking they hung up, but then I still hear them screaming. And it's so joyous and so rewarding. But that is my favorite part.
Has there been one specific acceptance or one like, specific phone call or that stands out in your mind?
Yeah, it was one performer that he absolutely thought that he hung up the phone.
Oh
It
no.
was great. So he thought he'd hung up the phone and he must have just like thrown it, and he was just going crazy and crying, and his roommates were in their apartment and they all came running in, and I got this beautiful little peek into the after celebration.
That's
Till he
awesome.
realized, I think when he went to go pick his phone back up to call someone else, I was still there.
Like, do I still have the job? I'm sorry.
It was just so sweet and wonderful. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned offer roles and you said offer tracks. Can
Mm,
you speak to what that means?
sure. Track is just something that the way we refer to a role sometimes. Um, performers will often join our company and play multiple roles, and they'll execute different tracks within the show. Um, it's quite a unique way that our cast functions. So that's a really interesting thing to say. Hey, you have a job, but then hey, you also get to do X, Y, and Z.
Okay. And are you able to, again, to the best extent possible, can you tell us how many cast members are part of the company?
Sure. So we function with a cast that's upwards of about 70 cast members.
Oh, wow, that's a lot.
It's a
All
big.
right, so Shane has asked me some more questions. Again, we'll answer as we can because we don't want her to give away anything that we might want to experience ourselves. Shane asks, do you have a favorite space within the experience? And if so, and if you can answer it, why?
My favorite space within the experience. Yeah, actually, my favorite space within the experience is actually Mandalay Bar, which is the home base of the experience itself. It also functions as a venue on its own. It's a place that is unique because it's somewhere that you could visit after the show simply as a bar guest and not experience the show. So it's a little bit of a glimpse into the world. I think it's a really magical place to sit because you get to um, uh, experience people as they're coming out of the experience, to take a breather, or at the end of the night, or waiting to go in. And it's a really interesting place of anticipation or release, and I really enjoy watching guests in that space.
Awesome. And do you do a lot of people watching? I mean, I love to sit there and people watch, especially in something like this. Seems
Yeah. After this many years, I have to admit I do a little people watching.
all right. So I hope that answered your question, Shane. And no, keep them coming. We will answer them as Stephanie's able to. Um, so okay, outside of Sleep No More, because that certainly does not define who you are, what you do. Is there a project that you've always wanted to do or a dream job?
Yeah, so I think I've spent so many years in theater, and it was always the main focus of my career. And I have been so lucky to have been as successful as I've been in such a competitive industry, and work on everything I've worked on. That recently I've been thinking a lot, and for me, I think it would be an incredible next step to dip into the world of television and film a little bit. So much of what I do as a company manager and an event producer and overseeing the entertainment department, so many of those skills translate into other worlds of entertainment, and translate directly into TV and film.
Mhm.
So it's like figuring out how to do that in a new world, I think would be really exciting and really challenging for me.
Awesome. And as a company manager for Sleep No More or other projects, is there a particular person on the creative team or the administration team that you interact with the most? Say a director, designers, performers, administrators.
Yeah, so you're definitely, as a company manager, interacting with the cast and the performers the most. They're your number one. And then you, depending on what the emphasis of your project is, right? Like if you are working on a dance piece, you're definitely going to be working with that choreographer a lot. If you're working on a more straight play situation, you're going to be interacting with that director, because you're kind of their right hand, in a way that you are responsible for handing them performers who are happy and comfortable and excited to be there and prepared to do their best work, right?
Mhm.
It's funny, I was just talking about this with someone before, but one of the artistic directors of um, one of the companies I first worked for said to me when I first started out, she was like, company management is the root of a good performance. Like, it often gets underestimated, but you are setting the tone. You're the first face they see when they join a company. You are their welcome, and you're gonna decide how they feel about this company moving forward.
Awesome. Yeah, they're the first, essentially, like you said, the first voice
First
they
impression.
hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's great. Um, let's see here. Looking at so okay, you mentioned sitting at the hotel bar, and is one of your favorite spaces in the hotel. We've got some other items that you've worked on, and I'd like to ask you, as a person who's worked with a lot of immersive experiences, can you speak about Hitchcock Halloween Party 2019? I'm gonna show a clip real fast. That's okay.
Sure, of course.
So, can you speak a bit about what we just saw, and what was that about?
Sure. So, one of the really interesting ways that the hotel has grown over the years is, you have Sleep No More, that's this backbone of the building. But then we've grown from there and started to do these other events. And our parties are a huge part of that. So, every year we do a huge Halloween experience as well as a huge New Year's Eve experience. And the goal of those is to engage different audiences that maybe we wouldn't have pulled in with just Sleep No More. and to be able to experience our world and our performers and our aesthetic essentially in a different way, right? Sleep No More is, it's, you can't talk, it's, a very dark world and you're experiencing it one way. And the parties are the opposite, right? It's just that, it's a party. You're engaging in this world in a joyous, loud, booming way that you can engage in a different way. And the parties happen in, along with the show. So you can experience the show as well as a party in the same evening. And another thing that makes them so magical is the transition of that. So as a guest, you could come to the space, experience Sleep No More for the evening, and then kind of roll right into the party. And we transition the space quite quickly with our incredible teams that I mentioned earlier, that you all of a sudden are back in one room and it's a totally different world.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's, throughout the years, we've done Halloween parties and New Year's parties, all different themes, but we always kind of pull the backbone of Sleep No More into it. So this will be one of our New Year's Eve celebrations. That was a winter masquerade. And we always kind of indulge in as much decadence as humanly possible. And audiences are encouraged to get decked out as much as they want to. And with these parties throughout the years, some of the most beautiful art has been some of our audience members who've come in just stunning costumes for the evenings.
So if I were a guest coming to stay at the hotel on, say, the Winter Masquerade Ball night, how would I know to, dress in my finest?
Sure. So when you buy a ticket to a party, you're given all kinds of instructions leading up to it, of little Easter eggs of what the world is going to be like for the night, themes, colors, what to lean into, what to get excited about, and some direction of how to prepare yourself for the night.
Okay, awesome. Shane is back with some more questions. Keep them coming, Shane. So does Sleep No More collaborate with any other companies?
We collaborate in terms of the McKittrick itself outside of Sleep No More. So Sleep No More is a Punch Drunk production. But then, as I mentioned, we've grown so much. So we do actually have additional spaces within the building itself that we use for partnerships that have been really incredible. Actually, it's one of my favorite things that we've done. We partnered with the National Theatre of Scotland, which was so exciting for me because it was a company that I, had always dreamed about going to see some of their work. And we did a show called The Strange Undoing of Prudencia Hart. And it was just ever so conveniently set in a Scottish pub, which worked really well with the theme of our building. So the McKittrick partnered with National Theatre of Scotland, and we brought Prudencia over, and then we ran Prudencia upstairs for a while, and it was a pure joy to work with them, and I hope to again in the future. And then we did some other things as well. A company called Vox did this amazing experience called Flight. That was more of a visual art piece. So yeah, we do lots of cool partnerships upstairs, which is really exciting.
And when you say upstairs, are you speaking to a specific space that you can talk about, or?
Sure. So there are two additional spaces in the building. There is our rooftop space, which is called Gallow Green. It's our garden bar area, which functions just as a normal restaurant and bar normally, and then we'll do big events up there. And then a space right under that that is called the Club Car. That is another event space that anything from Prudencia Hart to actually some of the other productions that we were talking about earlier.
Awesome. And also at the hotel, there are two other items that happen, two other event like items that happen. Could you speak a bit about those?
Yeah, so that's a perfect segue into that. So that's the Club Car, which is our space upstairs. We have the Club Car and Gallow Green. And these are additional works that we've produced. This what you're watching right here is a trailer for Speakeasy Magic, which was a project that was very near and dear to my heart. And it was an evening of up close magic. So you got to engage the same way, up close and personal, as you would with Sleep No More, with some of the best magicians in the world. It was small tables of maybe about 7 to 10 people, and you got to experience all of this up close magic and sleight of hand and mentalism. It's a really magical evening.
Awesome. And there's also, we have another event, right?
We do. And then upstairs in the club car, we also did Marshland Follies with Marshland Follies, which was partnered with Suzanne Barsh, who is the magical queen of nightlife in New York and a huge personality, and accomplished creator in the scene. And she built this Follies with us that is this extravagant late night experience of burlesque and drag and just some of the most incredible, interesting, beautiful performers. And it was a fantastic party with Suzanne every Friday night.
Awesome. And how long do these usually run in addition to coming to the hotel?
Sure. So so something like Prudencia or Flight, it was usually an engagement that would be a particular set of dates that, if it did well, we would keep extending it as much as we could. But they were more of, if you think of it, more of like a touring show that sometimes they would have another engagement to move on to, as opposed to the work that we produced ourselves, which was more Speakeasy and Marshland Follies. That will hopefully return to the McKittrick when we return ourselves. So Shane, you'll have to come add Speakeasy Magic and Marshland Follies to your list of McKittrick adventures.
Awesome. So for our students who may be in the audience tonight, was there a class that you've taken that for you has proven invaluable for your current career?
Sure. So it's funny. I often think back. This is an interesting engagement to say this, but my public speaking classes that I took in school, I found to be extremely helpful in my career as I went on. As a company manager, you're very often starting a meet and greet or having to, speak to large groups of performers, and just having that training and that practice to be able to engage with larger audiences and be able to comfortably present yourself and speak with confidence, I think was so helpful. It comes in handy in interviews, in professional life. So I think I would say to any student, regardless of major or career aspirations, to take some public speaking classes.
Awesome. All right. Yes, Shane says that they'll be there, and they want to do the Halloween night for sure.
Oh, excellent.
Awesome.
Wow, nice.
So here's a question that we typically ask all of our guests. Can you take us through a typical day? I mean, let's look at pre-COVID, but a typical day from the time you arrive, or I don't know if you arrive at all, especially now, but
Yeah.
how does it go?
I think one of the exciting things about the McKittrick is there was definitely no such thing as a typical day. I think that's one of the things of being part of an immersive piece and a building such as the McKittrick. So my world in particular, I started as the company manager when I first started there, and did that for a few years. And then after that, I was promoted to the role of talent envoy, which is quite a specific title, because it was quite a specific job. And it was a promotion to oversee the whole entertainment department of the McKittrick. So I retained all those company management duties, and then grew my role to oversee musicians and some of these additional shows that we've spoken about that happened in the building. As we grew, I was lucky enough to have my position grow with that. So it really depended on what was going to be the focus of the day, right? It was like I always had all those plates spinning, like one of those people that like, right, there's all the plates spinning and it's like, which one am I going to come down and work on? And then like get it back up spinning and then pull another one down. So I think just being able to be a multitasker, and, keep those plates spinning in the air while you're, doing little things here and there and really deciding what needs your attention at any given time. It was so important for me. And also my beautiful, wonderful, wonderful assistant was very crucial in that work as well. I think you have to build a team that you can depend on, because you are only one person, right? You can only be one place at once as much as you try and separate yourself and go all over the place. And that's a true key to success, is being able to say, hey, I work with you, we work well, I trust you, go do this, I'm going to go do this. And then letting that go so you can focus where you are.
Well, besides Sleep No More as a whole, perhaps, we can speak about some of the side or additional items in Sleep No More. Has there been a favorite project to date, be it before Sleep No More or inside Sleep No More?
I think Speakeasy Magic is probably my favorite project. I'd never worked with magicians before. I'd never had any glimpse into this world of magic. And it's fascinating. It's so fascinating and so exciting. And not just that, but to be able to work with artists that have been honing their craft since they were little kids, most of them, and to see what the years, for some of them decades, of work and commitment and practice to the smallest things, right? They can actually make real life magic, right? It was,
Yeah.
I know they say about magic tricks, right? Like, don't let somebody see you do it twice.
Mm-hmm.
I would watch all of this night after night after night
And still.
and still be amazed, and still my mind be completely blown. And for me, that was really, really exciting to be able to find something that I could engage with over and over and over again and still be, you know, totally in awe of.
Yeah, I think the speakeasy magic would be my favorite too. I like to watch. There's a guy on Facebook, Chris or Ramsey, I think is his last name. Does puzzles and magic, and it's check it out if you get a chance.
I will, yeah.
All right. So Shane has another question. Can you speak to the process of onboarding new talent? How long does it take from casting to moving live to stage?
Sure. So that's an interesting question, Shane. I feel like a lot of people always want to know that, and it can be quicker than you think it is, because I think specifically with something like Sleep No More, there is only so much that you can rehearse, and there's only so much that you can simulate an environment that without an audience. So our rehearsal process, is quite truncated in a specific amount of time. And then, we make sure they're fully prepared, as much as they can be. And then we get them in with an audience, because that's how a performer grows a character. That's how they start to embody their role, right? Because the audience is almost like their partner in a way.
Yeah.
And it's so specific in that way. And also throughout the process, there's other things that you have to learn coming into the McKittrick that you wouldn't have to learn coming into, a normal theater, which is just how to get around and not get lost. There's all that other fun stuff to learn when you're learning your choreography as well.
And I'd like to go a little bit further with Shane's question. Again, to the extent that you can speak to it, or is there special training or special type of having a person not just be a performer, but they're literally interacting with the public. Are there safety protocols? Are there things that the performer has to learn or trained on?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's such a huge part of the preparation that all of our teams go through. It's it's first and foremost the thing that we focus on, because it's, you know, safety above everything else. You know, above the artistic integrity of the show, everything, like it is safety first and foremost. And in this super unique style, um, you know, there we went into something that there was no rule book for, right? Punch Drunk, like I said earlier, you know, pioneered this art form, and we had to write that rule book. We were, you know, had the privilege of creating this new type of world, but then also, you know, the classic with great power comes great responsibility could not be more, you know, true than in this scenario. And you asked earlier if the show has changed over the years, and this is something I think that has changed that over the years as we've grown and we've learned, those protocols and those the process behind all of that has only grown and grown, from everything that we've learned, and opportunities that we've been given to grow and build throughout the years.
Awesome. Shane asks, do actors secretly shadow to prepare? Can you speak to that? I don't know.
Secretly shadow to prepare. Well, sure. I mean, like any performer that is coming into something that already exists, you're gonna, you know, you're gonna go see, you're gonna go experience what you're getting into. I had a very interesting experience with that myself, actually. Of I went for my first interview, and I thought it went really well. I felt really great about it. I was trying to be cool. And they said, hey, listen, it's a really unique show we're asking you to come into. Is it possible? Would you be able to stick around and watch the show tonight? We'd love to have you back for a second interview, but you need to see what we're talking about here. I had to lower the excitement level. I was like, I think I can stick around. I think I can move my schedule around. Mind you, this was like the only thing in New York I'd wanted to see. So I watched the show for the very first time, being one interview into the process of becoming the company manager. So not only did I have this mind-blowing experience of seeing Sleep No More for the first time, but I'm also watching it through the lens of this could be your show, this could be your world. So I left that night and just going a million miles an hour. And at this time, thank God there was no Wi-Fi in the subways, because I wrote my thank you email on my phone on the way home that night. And I came out of the subway and I was like, let me reread it. And I was like, oh, that was a crazy person that wrote that email. Thank God I couldn't send that before, and edited it down to the thank you email that got sent. But it is a really interesting way to be able to watch the show, of the possibility of thinking of it as something that you could be a part of.
Awesome. So, and you talked about your typical day or a typical day. Um, are you typically there for the actual performance, or are you usually doing the pre-production or the casting or all the other items?
Sure. So it's pretty standard for a company manager to be there for the performance. And in the earlier years, I was there throughout the performance much more. And then in the later years, I would be there during the day, be there for call and stay through call time to engage with everyone. And then my assistant would stay throughout the evening.
Okay.
When I wasn't able to be there, or if there was other stuff going on upstairs that I had to be engaged with upstairs. But that didn't mean that I wasn't on call 24/7, right? So this was a world that my phone would ring at the craziest of times for the craziest of things. And, you know, like any production, people get injured and things happen that you have to take care of. And, you know, company management is a 24/7 job in that way. And I, that was something for me that I wouldn't have had it any other way, because this was, you know, this was my family, this was my cast, this was, you know, I was, of course, if something's wrong, I'll be there in 2 seconds. So that was another really interesting part of like the shutdown and getting used to like a quiet
Yeah.
quiet cell phone. Haven't had one of those in a really long time.
So does the McKendrick have, do y'all have plan, to the extent that you can speak to, do you have plans? Are you, are you preparing to just reopen right away? Or do you have new and exciting items maybe coming to the upstairs spaces?
I don't think anybody knows in New York.
Yeah.
We absolutely are hoping to reopen back to former glory and come at it with everything we have, and super excited about that. But I think everything with the pandemic is such a giant question mark around it right now. So we're just waiting for that guidance from our governor and our city, and try and see when we're able to do that safely and get the world of the arts back going in New York, because we sure do miss it.
Awesome. So for those who would like to know more, or pre-COVID, what would they need to know to stay at the McKendrick for a few hours?
Sure. So if you want to come check into the hotel, please do. Tickets are available on our website to be booked through there. You can always call the box office, mckendrickhotel.com. You can always hop on the website as well to check out some of the former events that we've done, watch some trailers, take a look at some of the residents of the hotel. But we would love to have everybody check in on the other side of all this.
Awesome. Well, Shane has two things to say. Clearly, Shane has become a second panelist for us tonight. Shane wants to first say thank you so much for doing this, Stephanie. Have so much respect for you and your team, true artists and professionals in the field. He has a silly question as well. Are there any ghosts at the McKendrick?
Oh, that's a really good question, Shane. Listen, this is a very old building, and many beings have walked the boards of the McKendrick Hotel before us. And I do believe that some are still wandering around. We all have our own stories of who we've encountered and where we've encountered them. But yeah, I don't think we're the only souls wandering around there.
Awesome. All right. Well, hopefully you, one of the audience members, will be another soul to be able to wander around the McKendrick soon. Stephanie, we're a little close to time, but I'm out of questions, and I think Shane's out of questions. So we're going to go ahead and call it a night. Thank you so much, everyone, for showing up with us. Stephanie, thank you so much. Stay safe, and we hope to be up there soon with our reservations at the McKendrick.
Absolutely. The pleasure was all mine. Thank you for having me. And thank you for all the questions, Shane.
Take care, everyone.
Take care.